Hello and welcome back to Insanely Creating. This time we are doing mushrooms. Now this is a great theme because there are loads of different shapes and sizes and colours for mushrooms. But I am not alone in this. There is in fact a small group of us that have got together to collaborate and create our own fungal fairy creatures. In this group we have got Kiat B Saguru, Stitch Wick Creations, our host of this collaboration, Heliophobiant Dolls, and myself. All of the links to everybody's channels will be in the description box below. Once you have finished this video, please go ahead and watch everybody else's. Everyone did a completely different take on the fungal fairy creature theme, and everybody worked so hard and the dolls came out beautifully. But for now, let's get on with my doll and have a look at some images to pull up some inspiration. In particular, I like the cap on this particular mushroom, the whole elements happening on these, and the fan in the final one. I wanted to go for a bit of a trippy, cool but creepy kind of vibe with my mushroom fairy fungus thing that we're going to be creating. So I thought a really nice doll that I haven't actually had a chance to use before is Skelita, I think that's how you say her name, but yes, this particular doll, she came to me like this. So she'd already had all of her factory paint taken off and her hair chopped. So my reasoning behind using the skeletal Monsterhigh doll was because I wanted my doll to have this kind of deathly element to her. There are some cases where people will unintentionally ingest the wrong mushrooms if they've gone and picked them from the wild and don't know what it is that they're looking for and haven't done enough research. So I thought having this deathly element to my little fungus fairy that's, you know, most people would think a little fairy would be really cute. I wanted mine to have a bit of a creep factor to her and just, yeah, be a little bit deathly, a little bit creepy. Blue and spooky, we like that. So I've gone ahead and prepped her in the exact same way that I always would. I've boiled her head off, pulling all the plugs out using my needle nose pliers, and I'm just going over the head again with some pure acetone just to get rid of any and all paint that might still be remaining in the creases or on her scalp. So in the end, I don't actually use this head in the final doll creation, but at this point I did want to use it and I also wanted to shrink it. So this is the process that I went through. I got a glass jar, filled it up with some acetone, plonked the head in, made sure it was fully submerged and that all of the air had gotten out of it so that it was no longer floating and able to stay at the bottom so that it evenly soaks up all the acetone. I then left her in there for 2 hours before getting her back out again very carefully, and yeah, she's swelled up. It soaked up all the acetone and she is big and squishy and very delicate in this state, so please be careful when you take yours out. Now, do you see what I did? I put the doll on the jar and the little date that was printed on it melted in the acetone and stained the doll head. This isn't the reason why I didn't use this doll head. It's just an unfortunate accident. But the reason that I ended up using a different sculpt was because my final design, you end up not seeing a lot of the sculpt anyway, and I simply didn't want to waste a Skelita because I've only got one. Okay, so I end up using an operetta head simply because I've got quite a few of them, and because of the markings on the side of her face, I feel like I'm quite limited to what I can do with them. So I thought, let's get on and use one for this. I also grabbed Venus's hands. They not only have these nice little markings on the back of them that kind of look like plant stuff anyway. Her fingers are really long compared to other doll hands, so I thought that would add to the sort of creepy factor that this doll is hopefully going to give. This is the operetta head when it is full of acetone. So yeah, she'll shrink all the way back down again, which will be great. But I did struggle getting this head back on, as you will see in a minute. I highly recommend putting the head on before it shrinks down completely, because then it's still got a little bit of squish to it and it's much easier to get on. This was quite a rock solid head and I nearly snapped the neck peg trying to get it back on. But I love the proportions for this. I think she looks amazing. So I can't wait to get her turned into our little fairy creature. She doesn't need her ears, so we're lopping those off, and I'm getting this air dry clay. I'll put the link for it in the description. I just searched for foam clay on Amazon and this came up, and because of all the colours, I thought it'd be really fun to try out. We're going to be using this to make the mushroom cap on the top of her head. This is going to go over her eyes, and we are going to use as many of the blues as we possibly can and hopefully not need to go into any of the other colours, and I can save them for other projects. So for size reference, here is an unshrunken Frankie head, and you can just see it's a little smaller, the operetta head, slightly smaller, not massively, but I only did one acetone treatment on this, so it's good enough. I'm really happy with these proportions. So we need to get on and make her little mushroom cap. So I'm getting all the different foam clays out. I've never used these before. These are so squishy and so weird, but I kind of love them. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix the colours up together. It doesn't really matter what the colour ends up being because I'm going to paint the whole doll anyway, but why not? I'm using the blue. I love it. It's pretty. After quite a bit of testing and trying out different shaped mushroom cap hats, we sort of ended up with the sun hat style, floppy sun hat. And with all of the spare foam clay that I had, I just made some of those little mushroom fans that you see a lot. Actually, I was probably really inspired by The Last of Us when making some of these in particular, this type of fungus. Because it's very similar to the ones that in The Last of Us, they have them all over their face. They're like all sprouting out. So yeah, I think I was slightly inspired by Last of Us, but who isn't at the moment, right? It's everywhere. So to make all the different little fungi all over the body, I'm going to be using Apoxie Sculpt. You've seen it before. I like to use it in my videos because it's the best thing to stick to a doll body. It's least likely to ping off or anything like that. It sticks really well. Well, I say you've seen this before unless you're new, in which case welcome and thank you very much for being here. Consider subscribing so that you don't miss any future videos, especially if you ding the little bell. And if you are enjoying this so far, I would appreciate a little thumbs up or a little comment down in the comment section. It really helps with the algorithm. But anyway, on with the doll. We're making all the different little fungi all over her body. I am using reference photos for these so that I try and get them looking as organic as possible. here is what she's looking like so far. Got lots of things growing out of her body, and I'm trying to keep it all as asymmetrical as possible to help with the organic theme. I used this opportunity to add some of that whole fungus on the side of her face to cover up the carving that operetta normally has. This was really easy to do. I just put a thin layer of my Apoxie sculpt onto it and used water to really make sure the edges were as seamless as possible, and then I just stabbed it a whole load of times with different sized ball tools. And using some leftover flakes of the foam clay that I was using earlier, I'm just using some Fabri-Tac and Yoo-Hoo glue to just stick them all over her wrists and a little bit in the crotch area as well. Now, what's a fairy without wings? It's a pixie. But anyway, we're going to add her wings on now, but I'm not going to do just normal wings. I'm going to add fairy fingers. This is a type of fungus that's affectionately known as fairy fingers, but here is the actual name of it, which I'm not going to even attempt to try and say because I will butcher the pronunciation. But we're going to have these coming out of her back. Actually, again, like in The Last of Us, they have them coming out of the mouth, don't they? But these ones are going to be coming out of her back. They're just going to be wires that I'm just going to glue into her back and paint white. Now we're just adding some more of the foam fungus, the foam clay fungus, onto the back of the headpiece. I haven't stuck this in yet, so we're just also going to pop that off, fill it up with some Yoo-Hoo glue, and I will shove that onto her head, making sure that it's the right position because I want it to be covering her eyes as well. And to just make the headpiece a little bit more seamless and blend into the head a little bit better, I'm just going to add some more of that holy fungus. And here's how she is looking now that the sculpting is fully complete. And I'm going to start off by giving her a base coat of the FolkArt 401 True Blue acrylic paint. Now, while that was drying, I thought I would just experiment and have a go with my new airbrush that I got in the latest Nerdy Crafter Not Another Crap kit. This was just me having a little quick practice with it. I am going to need some really serious, I can't even speak. I need some serious practice with this thing. I just went in head first, just having a go on it because I got too impatient. I just really wanted to see what it was like using it. But I'm definitely going to have a little bit of an experiment with it because I ended up just cracking the chalk pastels out, as you can see here, and using them because they're something I'm very used to and not afraid of. I'm definitely going to need some practice with that airbrush though, because that was terrifying. I started off adding some green into our blue, some sort of greens and yellows and that sort of effect. I ended up not liking this and changing it all to more pale blues and whites. So now I'm just adding some decoration using the pale blue and the white paint. I'm much preferring this colour palette now that we've gotten rid of the green. So I am just adding decoration wherever I feel that it needs it, adding vines or dots or edging all over the place. So I'm just going ahead and adding some magical white dots onto the top of her mushroom cap. I then paint the fairy fingers coming out of her back white. I spray her a couple of times with Mr. Super Clear to ensure that her paint doesn't chip and stays as pristine as it can for as long as it can. Once that is done though, she is complete.